Welcome back to Sauce Sparrow, your number one source for recommendations. If you've seen my Halloween video where I talked about 6 horror manga, you might remember I mentioned the movie As Above, So Below. That movie was loosely based on Inferno, the first part of a poem called The Divine Comedy. You've likely come across some form of media that is either inspired by or based on that work, but today we're going to be talking about Lulu's Hell House, a manga that fits into those categories. If you're not familiar with Inferno, it's basically about this guy named Dante who travels through the 9 circles of hell alongside Virgil, who acts as his guide. The circles are said to represent specific sins, and the inhabitants found in each circle are guilty of committing that sin when they were alive, now condemned to eternal punishment befitting why they ended up there in the first place. There seems to be a few different interpretations of why Dante's traveling through hell, but it essentially comes down to Virgil being the main reason, and in this manga that's not any different. Daniel Taylor, or Dan, is a real estate agent who manages to sell an older mansion his company has struggled with for quite some time. Just before finalizing the deal with a client by the name of Virgil, whose name might seem familiar to you, the bloody history of the original owners is revealed, as the Midnight family turned on each other due to disagreements during talks of succession. Fun fact, the mansion's gate has the same inscription found on the entrance to hell, which of course comes from the Divine Comedy, and that's even mentioned here by the characters. Shortly after handing over the keys, Dan is informed Virgil's wife has been hospitalized due to finding a part of the mansion that wasn't originally listed on the floor plans. Determined to figure out the cause, Dan heads out but ends up losing consciousness and falls down a flight of stairs, suddenly finding himself standing in front of the mansion but with some clear differences. Upon entering, he encounters a monster that attacks him, and while hiding from it, he discovers the mausoleum, which wasn't on the floor plans previously. He then hears a voice coming from a coffin found inside, and this is when we're introduced to Lulu, the youngest daughter of the Midnight family. Lulu informs Dan the mansion is actually a replica of hell, and people who once had a connection to the house are trapped within, tormented by their regrets from when they were alive. This meeting sets up the journey our two characters will have to go on as they make their way through all 9 floors of the mansion. Dan's goal is to rid the house of all spirits so his clients can safely live there, while Lulu hopes to find the truth behind why her siblings killed her and locked her up. I'm liking this one so far. Maybe it's just me, but seeing the characters go through the mansion encountering monsters and other threats reminds me of classic Resident Evil, and that's the kind of vibe I can definitely get behind. Honestly, it's just a really interesting series, especially because of its connection to the Divine Comedy. Some of the influences here are pretty clear, such as Lulu calling Dan Dante, but there are some that aren't so obvious, and one in particular I want to talk about. We've seen that in order to visit the alternate version of the mansion, one needs to be close to death, and I believe Virgil, who should be the Virgil of the story, will help Dan on the outside while Lulu helps him on the inside. But if Virgil isn't the guide and Lulu is fulfilling that role, who exactly is she? Each floor of the mansion is controlled by Lulu's siblings, and while it doesn't seem to be an exact replica of the poem's setting, the floors so far have reflected the original since, but there's one thing that really stands out to me if what I think is happening is happening. In the Divine Comedy, Satan is trapped in the 9th circle of hell. An interesting point to note is this circle is said to have smaller circles within it, and one of these circles is dedicated to those who betray their kin, but treachery is the main focus of the circle in general. Satan's role in this circle being at the center of it all is to chew on people known to have committed the ultimate betrayal. Now, if you haven't made the connection, what I'm trying to say is I think Lulu is actually Lucifer, also known as Satan. Lulu's trapped in a coffin that has the exact same name of the river Satan is trapped in, and she takes on the role of punishing betrayers, which in this case would be her family. The real question is, why is she at the top of the mansion and not at the bottom? One possibility is if she is Lucifer, that would mean she rebelled against God, maybe the head of the family, and was punished by her siblings as a result, but given how the story's been set up, I don't think this is likely unless Lulu's been faking it and using Dan for some nefarious purpose. The other possibility is maybe she was killed because she was chosen as the one to inherit the mansion or become the head of the family. Since she doesn't know how her siblings died, maybe the head of the family is the one who punished them for what they did to her, and for some reason is waiting for Lulu at the bottom of the house. Keep in mind that there are 9 floors but only 8 siblings. Lulu even calls herself the heiress of the family, and it's shown she has an ability to free souls from the mansion, and since her siblings should be dead, maybe this is their only way of continuing to exist, which is why she was trapped, since she would be the ruler of hell, or in this case, the Hell House, and has the power to decide their fate. There are a lot of questions here, and I might be missing some details in relation to the Divine Comedy, but theorizing what could happen without knowing everything is just part of the fun. If you haven't read any of the author's previous work, you should definitely go and check them out, but something they have in common is how short they are. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but it could be worrying because we've still got so many floors to go through, and while this isn't a series I see ending soon, I would like to see the complete story, but just like Lulu when she was trapped in the coffin, we're just gonna have to be patient and hope for the best. If you have any thoughts on this series, let me know in the comments below. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any recommendations, but if you're not, shout out to you because the channel recently hit over 200 subscribers. As always, thank you so much for coming to Sauce Sparrow. I hope you found a new series to read from your visit, and hope you return soon.